Guys, we are back. It's the second to last week of Dana White's Contender Series, week 9. It's been a really fun season. I honestly think this could be a contender for the best card of this entire season 8 of Contender Series. There are a lot of really good prospects on this card, so let's jump into it.
Bung, we have this once again. Dana in the middle and 2 random men left and right. All right. So Sean Gauchi versus Anthony Drillich. That's my best chance. We got one who looks like he has a lot of belts and somebody without a lot of belts. So walk me through it. Why is one priced drastically more than the other?
Yeah, I mean, these pretty much just reflect other markets, these prices. You're going to find Gauchi as the favorite just about everywhere. Yeah, I had to include that picture of Drillich and all his hardware, just too sick not to. But both of these guys are really good fighters. Gauchi is probably the more technical boxer of the two, very clean striking. Definitely has some wrestling, though, in his back pocket, which he's demonstrated recently. Saw it against Hai-Won Lee. Got to a 5-round decision in that one. He implemented a lot of wrestling. Defensive wrestling is really good, too. Defended a bunch of takedowns against Nakatsukasa. Also got the KO in that one. And Gauchi, like I said, boxer, pretty much just a boxer, doesn't really implement kicks too much. Really nice overhand right. Drillich, really powerful for this weight class. Definitely real power, one-punch knockout abilities, has been finding most of his success in the boxing. Recently, that is, in a lot of his earlier fights, he attempted more takedowns. Against Renat, he wrestled a lot to begin with, and then Renat was able to wrestle him out a little bit when he faded into the third. Ultimately, he was able to get the finish there, though. And then against Frank Janikowski, he got multiple knockdowns against him, and Frank is a big dude, really tough. Defends pretty much all of Frank's takedowns, gets a lot of control there, so he definitely is a good wrestler. Good left hook, decent jabs. I think he's probably going to want to, or he's going to need to close the distance a bit more because he is the smaller fighter of the two. I am personally going with Gauchi here kind of because of that. I think Drillich is probably going to need to rush in and close the distance here if he's going to be able to find his shots against Gauchi. Gauchi is just going to be able to be more technical, which he likes to do. He'll be able to dictate the range here with his length. My guess would probably be a decision win. I don't really know if I see a knockout coming from the Gauchi side of things.
All right. I like it. Interesting, though, that Drillich does have 10 pounds on him. Always something that I like to kind of keep in my mind.
For sure. And I'd say he's far more of a knockout threat than Gauchi is. Very powerful guy.
But we will see. Moving on to the next one. Islam Dulatov with the model shoot versus Benito Antunes with a belt. So how should we expect these to go? Another big price discrepancy.
Yeah, so Islam was supposed to fight Meng Ding, who was his most recently scheduled opponent. Meng Ding, I think, like in hindsight, did not look great against Rami Hamed. Is probably a whole lot worse than Islam Dulatov, who's a really big welterweight prospect, I would say. He's pretty well known. He's also physically big. He's very tall. I think he's 6'4", 6'5" is what it says. He is pretty much all forward pressure, though. So it's like, despite having like the length advantage on just about every single person he fights, he prefers to counter forward or come forward at you. Really good hooks, nice knees with that length. A well-rounded guy. He doesn't really attempt takedowns, but he has 5 knockouts, 5 subs. And I just think he'll be better in both realms here, both the striking and the grappling. Excuse me. But Benito versus Geraldo Neto. Neto gassed out really quickly in that one, and then Antunes was just able to beat him in the striking. Romanov, who knocked him out in their fight, that was an absolutely nasty knockout. Kind of came out of nowhere. And then we've seen him shoot takedowns in a couple other fights too, which is kind of weird. Like against Valesco, he shoots a ton of takedowns, which is weird because from what I've seen, not the best grappling on this guy. He's 4 sub losses. Um, yeah, kind of weird to watch. Like I'm not convinced of the fight IQ. This dude's also listed at, oh, I didn't include the height in here because it's not listed on here, but I have it in my notes. He's listed at 5'11".
Ooh,
So
pretty big height.
yeah, so Dulatov, like those knees that he gets on people should be there pretty much the whole fight. I am definitely expecting a first round finish.
I'll say that sounds like a knockout with that kind of knee thing you're talking about there.
Yeah, I'm thinking first round knockout. This guy also, like I said, Vanilto, from what I've seen, kind of looks like a fish out of water on the ground. So if it gets there, I would not be shocked by sub at all either.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, moving on to the next one. Mario Pinto versus Lucas Camacho. Yeah, another big price discrepancy here, and it looks like a little bit of a weight discrepancy as well, and age. I see why Mario is a massive favorite.
Yeah, so he's the big favorite here. He's, I'd say, a really good prospect. A lot of guys know about him. Technical striker, especially for the heavyweight division. Don't get too many fighters of like in that archetype in the heavyweight division. Really, really nice kicks to both the leg and the body. He defeated Kasim Aris, who's a former Bellator guy, really big dude with kicks alone. They're just adding up big time in that one. I'd say good movement, really good movement, head movement, part of his technical striking. He's not really a forward pressure type of guy. He's pretty good fighting off of his back foot, but he definitely doesn't dictate the pace in most of his fights, I would say. Sahik was able to pressure him, but he eventually gassed out in their fight, for example. And that is pretty much the only hole in Pinto's game that I could foresee Lucas Camacho being able to exploit. This dude is just an absolute blitzer. His whole fight style is to just come forward at you, and that's 100% what he's going to do here. He left MMA for a while, returned, and then fought a guy who was kind of a can, gassed out in the first round. And yeah, like that's basically his whole style. Not very technical at all, but Pinto can get pushed back pretty easily. Camacho is going to be looking to do that. He's just going to come in immediately throwing combos at close range. I just think Pinto's far too technical here, far too good. Obviously, the odds reflect that. I feel like it's just way, way more likely for him to catch Camacho on the way in of one of his blitzes than it is for Camacho to successfully land the big shot when he does initiate one of those blitzes. And I mean, I guess it is still just worth noting that there is that one red flag stylistically in that Pinto gets pressured easily and Lucas Camacho loves to pressure. But I'm still on Mario Pinto.
Yeah, I feel like this is a rather easy one for Pinto here. I wouldn't overthink it too much from what you're saying. All right, on to the next one. We have Cody Steele versus Jason Blair. Some normal names here. All right, Steele's got some weight to him. That's really the big thing that I notice here. How should we expect these two to go down?
Yeah, so I was way more excited for Cody Steele's original fight. If you remember from, I think it was either week 4, week 5, his opponent was supposed to be Camelo Tony, who has handed Alex Pereira his first MMA loss. And now he's fighting Jason Blair. And Cody is a wrestler, or I guess a wrestling forward sort of guy. But I will say his striking has looked really good in his recent fights. Against Alejandro Martinez, I would say he won that fight through his boxing, even though some past opponents were able to land really big shots on him. I think he's just put a lot of work into that department of his game, which I obviously love to see. Definitely impressed by the improvement there. So I'm gonna say he's probably the better striker of these two guys. Blair is kind of a smaller guy for this division, like Wells said. Slim build. He's 5'10", which I guess is kind of tall, not really. Trains in Liverpool. Has fought on Cage Warriors both here and in Europe. And he's mostly a grappler. his most notable opponent was also a Contender Series fighter in Ahmad Hassanzada, and it was he kind of did the not the exact same submission, but it was just a sub out of nowhere in that fight as well in that loss. But his grappling's good. Had some first round finishes on the feet. He's kind of hittable when he's striking, though. Still working on his striking defense. I think honestly, Steele is very, very good at grappling and wrestling. 100% certain he's going to be able to hold his own with Jason Blair here, who's more of a grappling-oriented fighter, whereas Cody Steele has really been trying to expand his game and diversify into the striking department. And I honestly think with Cody's takedown defense, if he doesn't shoot here and keeps it on the feet, I think he has a really good chance of winning by knockout. I kind of expect maybe the decision and sublines to be shorter than will be the knockout line, so that should be interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Cody Steele by knockout.
I like it. I like it a lot. Moving on to the next one, we got Artem Vakitov versus Islam Masraf. 60 pounds.
Yep, and we keep getting fed these fighters that are 60 pounds lighter than their opponents as big underdogs. We saw what happened last week with Danilo.
I just don't get this logic. Like, why do you want to go into the cage with someone who's 60 pounds heavier than you?
I just don't get it. I don't get it either, especially when it's like this guy's a kickboxer. He has zero grappling, zero even clinch work, really. I mean, actually, he does like the clinch, but zero wrestling on his resume. Like, he never does. It's weird. But yeah, let's break this down. Artem is a pretty hyped up prospect here. He was the most recent fighter to beat Alex Pereira in a kickboxing match. And he's honestly not too far removed from being that good at kickboxing. That was only in 2021, 3 years ago. So he's probably right now like similar levels of kickboxing to Alex Pereira. So no surprise that he's a big favorite here. I mean, for certain reasons, there are reasons why it is a surprise. But yeah, I just feel bad for Artem kind of. He started off his MMA career with a bad injury. He was about to win by ground and pound, and then dislocated his elbow while doing so. Yeah, it sucks. And then against Siavish, he defended some not so good takedowns. Wasn't really impressed by those at all because they were just weak. And then took him out on the ground through ground and pound. And then another one of his opponents, Valshir, quit because of just how hard his kicks were. It's always the question is with these kickboxing guys is how quickly will their kickboxing skills translate to MMA. Pereira was an example of someone whose skills translated pretty much immediately.
Yeah, but he also puts on like 30 pounds over his opponent each and every single fight.
Yeah, that's true. And it's like they're also they are both kickboxers, but they are different stylistically. Pereira is more he likes to fight from range, piece you up, wait for that perfect shot.
Yeah.
Artem is traditionally more of like a clinch fighter, likes to be in close quarters. In Glory kickboxing, he pretty much did his work in the clinch. And so I honestly would not be surprised if we see some MMA fighters with a little bit more experience on the better side give him some issues when he tries to initiate those exchanges in the clinch. Leg kicks are really good, obviously a big part of his game. Good combos within range are definitely his go-to. Alex did land a lot of shots on him and hurt him pretty bad in their most recent fights in kickboxing. Artem was able to hurt Alex multiple times for what that's worth, though. I do think these odds are just absolutely insane. And
so talk about that fight with Alex, though, a bit more.
Yeah.
What actually went down there, I guess?
So I mean, it was the decision for Artem. He ultimately just looked better. I think he got more than one knockdown on Alex Pereira. Alex was trying to keep it at range. Artem was being aggressive, applying the pressure the whole fight. He kept things inside the clinch as much as he needed to garner that decision. But yeah, he is serious power. Like how many times have we really seen like MMA fighters or UFC fighters hurt Alex Pereira? Like not many times, if ever. So I think he's truly a good prospect. I do think this guy is a UFC fighter, Artem, or at least has everything he needs to be a UFC fighter for a decent amount of time. I just think this is a really weird spot, and I think it's really weird that we're getting Artem at like these odds where he's like an 8-1 favorite or whatever. He's 60 pounds lighter than his Islam. Islam weighed in at around 260 in his last fight. In that fight, his opponent pretty much just came forward at him with his hands down, got knocked out instantly with a head kick. And like this guy, he not too. So I'm thinking that the main concern for Artem would be takedowns, and Islam does not shoot takedowns very often. He might snatch up a trip in scrambles here and there, initiate stuff when you're in the clinch, which I think is definitely important to note here because Artem loves to be in the clinch, kind of scramble things up more often than other kickboxers might. Like I just think being at this weight favors Masret on the feet. If Vakatov is able to keep this one on the feet, like literally for a couple minutes, I think this one's a first round knockout on the Vakatev side of things. If Islam's able to hold him up against the cage, right near the beginning of this fight, bring him down against the cage. We have never seen Artem defend a single good takedown in his MMA career. Like I don't really see why Islam doesn't have the ground advantage, but I'll slight lean Vakatov first round knockout, but I mean, would not be shocked. Would be way more shocked than these bookmakers would be.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just take the Islam side. Like, I just have such a hard time believing that, like, this guy's got a PFL shirt on. I don't think he's just wearing that just to wear it. I think he was part of the brand, is my assumption.
Yep, PFL fighter.
Which means he's been professionally fighting for at least a little bit now. And, yeah, I get the guy beat Pereira, but it was by decision. It's not like, oh, shit, he knocked out Pereira or whatever. Like, he stood there and banged, which is good for it. Power taking ability, but that's something that as humans is going to wear on over time, especially as you age. And I don't know. How old is the Islam guy? Do we know?
He's let's see.
He looks young is the only reason.
I think he's very young because he only has one fight in the PFL. Let me see. He is 10. Nobody knows his age.
That's crazy.
Okay. The PFL knows his age. He's 28.
All right, so he's 5 years younger. I like that as well.
Yeah, he's entering his prime.
He could be, to a degree, inexperienced, but it's just like, I don't know. We've seen this story happen so many times before. Like, a guy comes in, like, way heavier than the other, and then the other's like, damn, that was a lot of weight behind that punch.
Yeah, they just get hit one time, and their head does a full 360, and then the fight's over.
Well, that's the crazy part about fighting that, like, you don't realize until, like, you watched a little bit more, and, like, perhaps this is just going to evolve as a terrible take. Would not be surprised. But it's just, like, don't fight somebody who's 60 pounds heavier than you. Like, you don't need to do that, especially in MMA.
I know. It's like, I feel like Artem could easily...
You could find a different opponent.
Or you could easily make, like, the weight class, like the 185 weight class or whatever, you know?
Like, what does this do for you, I guess, is my biggest question. Is, like, if he comes in at 261 or whatever, and they fight, and say Artem does get that first round knock, like, what does that really do for your UFC pedigree? Does that, like, give you a much bigger fighter, I guess, on your first card? Like, you're not going to get Pereira again, but I guess it, like, adds to your legacy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have, like, a lot of questions of, like, why you would take this kind of fight. It just seems really dumb in so many ways.
Yeah, I don't get it. I'd also, like, I mean, this guy I would say is a lot less proven just in, like, pro fighting. So, and Artem seems like the type of guy that the UFC would want to build up just because he does have that Pereira win under his belt. Like, he's, like, kickboxing champ of the world.
I just give him somebody his weight.
Exactly. Like, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's like, I feel like it's foolish to, bank on him beating someone 60 pounds heavier if you really want a guy like this to be part of the promotion.
Exactly, because it's just like you can easily make somebody like this a lot more involved. Just don't give him somebody who's 60. Like, I don't know. Why are they doing this? Because, like, we saw it last weekend.
Yeah,
exact same situation. And then you and I were literally texting each other, going like, "Oh, this guy actually has like a lot of like fighting experience." And then
Yeah,
what happens in the first round? Fighting experience wins with 60 more pounds.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
realistically, I'm sure I'm just not knowing what I'm talking about.
No,
But
yeah, but if you, as a viewer, haven't figured it out by now, I think we're both gonna set on sprinkling a little bit on the Islam side of things, definitely touching nothing on the Artem Vakitov side of things.
yeah, just too much risk here. All the upside.
Yeah,
For what it's worth, now's the time to theoretically. I'd probably wait till after this fight, honestly, to invest in Artem if I was.
yeah,
Just because that seems like a much better time to buy in. Because like once he does get to the UFC, I imagine they will give him some really fun fights, um, because of the Pereira line.
I would just love to see him drop a few pounds, go down to 185, be a vicious
That as well.
kickboxer.
Like I don't know, just fight in your weight class, everyone.
Yeah,
That said, invest in your favorite fighters. Hopefully, this was helpful. And until next time, appreciate y'all. And yeah, peace, y'all.
peace.